Mechanic slips a "help me" note to a stranger. He never expected her to be a surgeon. The wrench slipped from Ramon's trembling hands and clattered against the concrete floor of his garage. It was 11:43 p.m., and he hadn't eaten in 14 hours. His vision blurred as he stared at the medical bill in his other hand. Another rejection letter from the insurance company. $95,000. That's what stood between his paralyzed brother Miguel and the experimental surgery that could help him walk again. Ramon crumpled the paper and threw it across the garage, letting out a scream that echoed off the metal walls. "I can't do this anymore," he shouted into the empty space, his voice cracking. 6 months. 6 months since the motorcycle accident that shattered Miguel's spine and Ramon's world. 6 months of working himself into exhaustion, selling everything he owned, and watching his 19-year-old brother sink deeper into depression from that hospital bed. Ramon pulled out a wrinkled photograph from his wallet. Miguel's high school graduation, both of them grinning, arms around each other. Their parents had died in a house fire when Miguel was 12, leaving Ramon to raise him alone. Now he was failing the one person who mattered most. His phone buzzed. A text from Miguel. "Don't work too late. I'm fine." Really? Ramon's just tigtanat. Miguel was lying. Last week, the nurse had called him, worried. Miguel had stopped eating, stopped trying physical therapy, stopped talking about the future. The surgical window closed in 3 weeks. After that, the damage would be permanent. Ramon grabbed a piece of notebook paper and scribbled 7 words with shaking hands. "My brother needs help. I've tried everything." He folded it and shoved it into his jacket pocket, his pride burning with shame. He'd never asked anyone for help in his entire life. The sound of tires on wet pavement startled him. Through the rain-streaked window, he saw a black Tesla pull into his garage. Who needed car repairs at midnight? The driver's door opened, and a woman in an expensive coat stepped out, her dark hair plastered to her face by the rain. She looked frustrated, exhausted, desperate. "Please tell me you're still open," she said, her voice urgent. "My car just died, and I'm stranded. I have an early flight tomorrow, and I can't miss it. I'll pay triple your normal rate." Ramon wiped his greasy hands on his coveralls and nodded. "Let me take a look." But as he approached the car, he had no idea that this stranger was about to change everything, or that the note in his pocket would save more than just his brother's life. If you're already hooked by Ramon's desperate situation, smash that like button right now. Subscribe to Broken Empire channel and drop a comment telling us what you'd do in Ramon's position. Hit share because someone needs to hear this story today. Now let's see what happens next. Asterisk asterisk. Elena Novak stood in the cramped office of Ramon's garage, water dripping from her coat onto the floor. She'd driven to Portland to escape. From the conference, from the hotel, from the overwhelming emptiness that had been consuming her for months. Now her car had betrayed her too. "Computer system glitch," Ramon said, returning from under the hood. "Needs about 30 minutes to reset. You can wait inside where it's warm." Elena nodded and sat down on the worn office chair. Her eyes immediately caught the stack of medical bills on the desk, then the photographs taped to a metal toolbox. A young man in a hospital bed, tubes and wires everywhere, trying to smile for the camera. "Your son?" she asked. "My brother," Ramon said quietly, not looking at her. "Miguel." Elena noticed the dark circles under Ramon's eyes, the way his hands trembled slightly as he worked. She'd seen that exhaustion before. In her own mirror, years ago, when her mother was dying and she was still in medical school, working 3 jobs to pay for treatments that insurance wouldn't cover. "What happened to him?" she asked softly. "Ramon Jauklansha. Motorcycle accident. 6 months ago. Spinal injury. He's paralyzed from the waist down." Elena's breath caught. "I'm sorry. That's devastating." "There's a surgery," Ramon continued, his voice breaking. "Experimental. It could help him walk again. But insurance won't cover it, and I don't have the money. I've sold everything. I work 16-hour days. It's not enough. It's never enough." The words tumbled out of him like a dam breaking. Elena realized he probably hadn't talked to anyone about this in months. "Where would the surgery be?" she asked. "Boston Spinal Institute. Dr. Patricia Chun." "But it costs." He stopped, shaking his head. It doesn't matter. I can't afford it. Elena's heart began racing. Did you say Dr. Patricia Chun? Yeah, why? I trained her, Elena said quietly. I'm a neurosurgeon. Spinal injuries are my specialty. Ramon stared at her, his wrench frozen midair. You're joking. Elena Novak. I was in Portland for a medical conference, but I needed to get away, clear my head. I've been feeling so disconnected from my work lately, like I've lost sight of why I became a doctor in the first place. She paused. My mother died of MS when I was in medical school. I couldn't save her. I couldn't afford the treatment she needed. By the time I had the money and the medical knowledge, it was too late. Ramon's eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry. Don't be. That pain made me who I am. It's just, lately, I've been wondering if any of it matters. If I'm really helping people, or just going through the motions. Ramon finished the repair in silence, then walked to the cash register. His hand hovered over the folded piece of paper in his pocket. Every instinct screamed at him not to do it, not to humiliate himself, not to burden this stranger. But then he thought of Miguel lying in that hospital bed, giving up on life. He placed the note on the invoice without a word and turned away, unable to watch her read it. Elena unfolded the paper. Her hands started shaking. My brother needs help. I've tried everything. I shouldn't have. Ramon started, reaching for the note. No. Elena said firmly, holding it away. Tell me everything about Miguel's case. Right now. For the next 20 minutes, Ramon explained Miguel's condition, the surgery requirements, the timeline. Elena listened intently, asking clinical questions, her medical training taking over. Then she pulled out her phone and dialed a number. Patricia? It's Elena. I know it's late, but I need a favor. I'm in Portland, and I just met someone whose brother needs our help. Ramon watched in disbelief as Elena described Miguel's case over the phone, asked about surgical openings, discussed technical details he didn't understand. Patricia has an opening next Thursday, Elena said, ending the call. I'll perform the surgery myself. I'll cover the costs. All of them. Ramon's legs nearly gave out. I can't let you do that. I can't accept. Yes, you can, Elena interrupted. You asked for help. I'm giving it. This is what I became a doctor for. To help people like your brother. Like my mother. Let me do this. Please. But why? Ramon whispered. You don't even know us. Elena's eyes glistened with tears. Because someone should have been there for my mother. Because you had the courage to ask. Because maybe helping Miguel will remind me why any of this matters. Ramon broke down completely, sobbing into his hands. Elena walked over and placed a hand on his shoulder. Get Miguel to Boston by Wednesday, she said gently. I'll take care of the rest. But neither of them knew that the real challenges and the real miracles were only just beginning. The surgical waiting room at Boston Spinal Institute smelled like disinfectant and fear. Ramon hadn't slept in 36 hours. He paced back and forth, his shoes squeaking on the linoleum floor, while Miguel was in surgery with Elena and Dr. Chin. 9 hours. They'd said the procedure would take 9 hours. A nurse approached him. Mr. Torres? Dr. Novak asked me to tell you that everything is going well. They're about halfway through. Ramon nodded, unable to speak. He collapsed into a chair and buried his face in his hands. What if it didn't work? What if Miguel never walked again? What if accepting Elena's help had been a mistake, raising Miguel's hopes only to crush them? His phone rang. It was Miguel's physical therapist from Portland. Mr. Torres, I wanted to wish Miguel luck. He's been through so much. I hope this surgery gives him his life back. Me too, Ramon managed. Me too. The hours crawled by. Ramon watched families come and go, some celebrating, some grieving. He thought about the note he'd written, the desperation that had driven him to hand it to a complete stranger. How had his life come to this? Finally, at 8:47 p.m., Elena emerged from the surgical doors. She was still in her scrubs, exhausted but smiling. Ramon jumped to his feet. The surgery went perfectly, Elena said. We were able to repair more of the damage than we anticipated. Miguel's already showing responses in his lower extremities. Ramon grabbed her and hugged her tightly, tears streaming down his face. Thank you. Thank you. I don't know how I'll ever repay you. You already have, Elena said softly. You reminded me why I do this work. But the road to recovery was brutal. For 3 months, Miguel endured agonizing physical therapy sessions. There were days he screamed in pain, days he begged to quit, days he cried that he'd never be normal again. I can't do this, Miguel shouted during one session, pushing away from the parallel bars. It hurts too much. I'm never going to walk again anyway. Ramon knelt beside his brother's wheelchair. Yes, you will. You're the strongest person I know. You survived that accident. You survived 6 months of hell. You could survive this. Why did you even bother saving me? Miguel Sobith. I'm just a burden to you. Don't you ever say that again, Ramon said fiercely, gripping Miguel's shoulders. You're my brother. You're my family. You're the only thing in this world that matters to me. I would sell my soul to see you walk again, Miguel. Don't you dare give up now. Elena visited every week, monitoring Miguel's progress, adjusting his treatment plan, refusing to let him quit. She saw something in Miguel that reminded her of herself, that stubborn refusal to accept defeat, buried under layers of pain and fear. Your brother gave up everything for you, Elena told Miguel during one difficult session. His business, his sleep, his pride. He asked a complete stranger for help because he believed in you that much. The least you can do is believe in yourself. Miguel wiped his tears and grabbed the parallel bars again. Okay, let's try again. Slowly, impossibly, Miguel began to improve. First, he could wiggle his toes, then his ankles. Then, 3 months after surgery, he stood on his own for the first time, supported by the parallel bars, shaking with effort. Ramon watched from the doorway, tears running down his face. I'm standing, Miguel whispered in disbelief. Ramon, I'm standing. I see you, little brother, Ramon said, his voice breaking. I see you. 2 months later, Miguel took his first independent steps using a walker. The physical therapist cheered. Elena Novak, and Ramon fell to his knees in the hallway and thanked every god he could think of. But the story was far from over. Because Elena had discovered something during Miguel's recovery. She'd found her purpose again. And Ramon had discovered that accepting help wasn't weakness. It was the bravest thing he'd ever done. 8 months after the surgery, Miguel walked into Ramon's garage without any assistance. His gait wasn't perfect. He still limped slightly, still used a cane on bad days, but he was walking. More than that, he was alive again. The depression had lifted. The hopelessness had vanished. He'd enrolled in community college to study mechanical engineering, inspired by the brother who'd saved his life. I want to design better safety equipment for motorcycles, Miguel told Ramon, so other people don't end up like me. Ramon hugged his brother tightly. I'm so proud of you. Elena had relocated part of her practice to Portland. She and Ramon had stayed in close contact throughout Miguel's recovery, and their friendship had deepened into something neither of them had expected, a genuine connection built on shared pain, mutual respect, and the knowledge that they'd save each other just as much as they'd saved Miguel. I have an idea, Elena said one evening over dinner at Ramon's garage, which had become their regular meeting spot. What if we started a nonprofit to help families facing medical crises that insurance won't cover? Ramon's eyes widened. You're serious? Completely. We could call it the Second Chance Project. You could use your garage as a community hub, offer free repairs to people in need, connect them with resources. I could provide medical consultations, connect families with specialists. Together, we could make a real difference. Then I would have missed the most important encounter of my life, Elena finished. Sometimes I think the universe has a strange way of putting the right people in the right place at exactly the right time. Miguel smiled, standing steady on his own 2 feet, something that had seemed impossible just 1 year ago. Or maybe it's not the universe. Maybe it's just people choosing to care about each other, choosing to be brave enough to ask for help and brave enough to give it. As the celebration continued around them, Ramon thought about all the lives they'd touched, all the families they'd helped, all the second chances they'd made possible. And he realized that the note he'd been so ashamed to write had become the most important thing he'd ever done. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do is admit you can't do it alone. And sometimes one moment of courage can change not just your life, but the lives of everyone around you. So what did you think of Ramon's journey? Would you have the courage to ask for help like he did? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If this story moved you, hit that like button, subscribe to Broken Empire channel because we share powerful stories like this every week, and share this video with someone who needs to hear it today. What would you have done in Ramon's situation? Tell us in the comments. Thanks for watching, and remember, your second chance might be one brave decision away. Miguel, who'd been listening quietly, spoke up. I want help too. I could share my story, volunteer, show other people that recovery is possible. Within 6 months, the Second Chance Project had helped 12 families get the medical care they needed. Ramon hired 2 employees to manage his garage so he could dedicate more time to the nonprofit. Elena felt more fulfilled than she had in years. And Miguel became an advocate for disability rights, speaking at schools and hospitals about his journey. 1 year after that desperate night, when Ramon had handed Elena the note, the 3 of them stood together at the Second Chance Project's first anniversary celebration. Over 100 people filled the garage. Families they'd helped, volunteers, donors, community members. Ramon looked at the framed note hanging on his office wall. My brother needs help. I've tried everything. You know what I realized? Elena said, following his gaze. That note didn't just save Miguel. It saved all 3 of us. It saved me from a life of emptiness. It saved you from burning out. And it saved Miguel's life. I was so ashamed when I wrote that, Ramon admitted. I thought asking for help made me weak. It made you human, Elena said. And brave. Braver than most people will ever be. Miguel wrapped his arms around both of them. Thank you, both of you, for not giving up on me. Ramon felt tears sliding down his cheeks again, but this time they were tears of joy, of gratitude, of hope. He thought about how close he'd come to crumpling up that note and throwing it away, how his pride had almost cost him everything. You know what the crazy part is? Ramon said, if your car hadn't broken down that night, if you hadn't walked into my garage at that exact moment,